All right, so we have Carmen on the bottom here playing the Azorius, I guess you could call it four-color beans control, and we have Gavin on, we'll say Rakdos. I don't know if we want to say the rest of the deck's name, but Rakdos, and we have
Rakdos Evoke.
Rakdos Evoke. All right, fair, fair. Well, we have a turn one Evoke, Javier. That's pretty good for Gavin.
Yeah, I mean that's the ideal start in the matchup, right? And I think the matchups should be favored for Carmen a little bit. I don't know if you agree, right? Like it should be a good matchup for her side, but definitely, turn one Griffin to play is going to, force them to actually top deck an answer somewhat soon.
Yeah, it's one of those things with regardless of how good you make your deck against Rakdos, when they have these starts, it's really really hard to come back from. Carmen has a lot of exile removal. Things like Leyline Binding and Solitude are 4X's in Carmen's deck, but you see, there's none of those in the hand, and specifically with Solitude, you'd have to also pair that with a white card. So Carmen under the gun here. The ring is a good pickup though.
Yeah, also because Gavin doesn't have a second land. Like Gavin had he drawn the second land here, we'll be facing pretty much a two turn clock, right? But still, I mean, Carmen has to top like something probably next turn, like at the Ferris or something like this to actually win. I mean, maybe the ring is enough, but the life total is going to be so low that maybe that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, like by the time you cast the ring, you're going to take at least two more hits from grief, even, assuming there's no land drop, which there isn't this turn. So you're going to cast the ring likely. Interesting
Two
that
life,
Carmen,
maybe.
yeah, interesting that Carmen played a fetch that turn. I'm curious as to why we chose to do that instead of play Hall.
Maybe she want to get the triumph so he can just get the Leyline Binding cheaper in the following turns.
It's fair.
I would say that's the most likely reason. Well, Solitude, that's certainly something because now the ring actually, like ring into an untapped land is enough to survive. Whoopa, land.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So land for Gavin here, which means we're going to take 4. Carmen's going to fall to 7. Gavin's going to play a Voidwalker, and then Carmen will go Flooded Strand for a basic, go to 6, play Ring, which that's not bad, but you activate the ring. The next turn you go to 5. You can Solitude the Grief, but you can't because the Grief has Menace, so you can't kill the Dothy Voidwalker and then block the Grief. So kind of a tough spot here for Carmen.
Yeah, I think she might actually just go for the basic island out of the Lorraine revealed because that's a +1 life. She know Gavin has Collins Command in his deck, so like having one more life can actually like make a difference there. That's what I think we're gonna see. But I mean, the ring might open the game a little bit, right? Like we don't know what's gonna be on the top of her deck, and like if she goes ring into like a what card and removal or Supreme Verdict or something, that might just change the game dramatically. But I mean, definitely Gavin's ahead. I get that's quite clear at this point. But I think this control decks, four color control decks, are actually pretty good at coming back from behind, even if they have low left total. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the presence of stuff like the ring, where
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter how many cards you're down, as long as you have enough life to kind of fulfill into that ring, you can just get so many cards and easily come back from a spot like this. So yeah, I guess Carmen, like you said, we're gonna search for the basic island. We can go basic island, play ring at 7, go to 6, and then ideally you go flooded strand for planes, go to 5. And I guess you can kill the grief, take 3, go to 2. It's gonna be a little close here, but like you said, we'll have to see what the ring finds. Maybe even another solitude.
Yeah, or even another ring. Like this could be a situation where Carmen draws into like Omnath into ring, for example, and then the game is suddenly the other way around. You're going in his favor. So it's gonna depend on a few next top decks. Ragavan actually doesn't change things as much because Supreme Verdict is probably the card Carmen wants to draw now, right? We'll say.
It's a little awkward though, because if Gavin just holds up, like if Gavin says doesn't play the Ragavan, holds up not dead after all, and then Carmen draws the verdict, it's a little awkward because then you just verdict the grief, I would imagine. So that can be
Hmm.
a little dicey. I almost wonder if we just want to draw maybe like a solitude and another white card, just so we can double solitude this turn, hard cast one, pitch cast the other one.
Yeah, that works actually better than the. I mean, I was thinking Verdict plus white card, by the way, not only Verdict because he's gonna draw like 3 more cards now. But probably Omnath is the actual best one. Like Omnath is just completely great here. Like Omnath into Fetchland plus Solitude just wins the game, I will say. And that's a non-white, non-Verdict, non-Omnath card.
Yeah,
Um,
that one's not great here.
not great. Probably needs to use the ring and pray to get like another ring or like a sweep, like something out of here. Like this is too low left turtle.
Yeah, because if you don't use the ring, can you even survive, assuming that Gavin has nothing, right? So you go Solitude. I guess you can, right? Because you
Yeah,
can go Solitude, the Grief, block the Ragavan, go to 8, then go to 5. Then, yeah, I guess that
you
does
can just pass,
stabilize.
right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think passing is fine here because if you activate the ring, you Gavin can just simply attack with Walker and you die. All right, ring into nothing. That's gonna be game actually.
Yeah, not great. Well, it's game if Gavin only attacks with the Voidwalker and the Grief,
Yeah,
right?
true,
Because
true, true, true.
if Gavin does decide to send in that Ragavan, Karma can go to 8. Then I guess it's still lethal, right? You trade for the Ragavan, or no, because you kill the Grief, trade for Ragavan. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Cameron's trying to draw into the fairy. Yeah, I don't know what was trying to draw into, but ring is one card too late. One card before
Yeah,
ring will actually been pretty good, but well, that's game one for Rakdos,
right.
which
Yeah, no. If Carmen found a ring a turn early, maybe she would have been fine because of like you said, could have just got the protection that one more turn. And but yeah, we see Gavin take that one down. So as far as the sideboard is concerned, who do you think benefits more in these post board games?
I think it should be Rakdos. Just more like I think decks are not gonna change too much. But I think Rakdos can get rid of cards like Fatal Push, which are like completely dead. Whereas Carmen deck is just gonna stay pretty much the same. Like no deck is changing their game plan. They're still like Rakdos is trying to do Rakdos thing, where it's trying to stick an elemental or the Fable. And controllers try to win with trying to like get a card advantage, and that's still gonna be true. But I think the impact of the cards is similar, but the impact of the cards gaming is cutting is actually also Blood Moon can be fine, but this is more like just getting rid of like Terminates, Fatal Pushes that are almost dead.
Yeah, Gavin seems to be improving card quality a little bit more than Carmen. He's like you said, cutting a bunch of bad cards, and Carmen just gets some minor upgrades. I'm not even sure she's sideboarding too much. I guess the scoldings are very good, the subtlety, and then the additional supreme verdict. So, yeah, just it's Carmen. I think, like you said, his favorite game one because Gavin has a lot of those dead cards. But once we get to the sideboard games, I think I like Gavin's side of the matchup a little more.
Yeah, at the very least, it has to be close, right? Like I think that's again a situation where Rakdos is a very good cyber deck because the core of the deck, like the best cards, the best stars are so good with Grief or whatever, and then it's like fillers. So once you get the fillers for actually cyber cards, your deck is Grief starts and then good cards. So it's just probably the reason why the deck is the best deck in modern, right? Like the fact that it just has like a very good cyber game against everything.
Yeah, it has the most probably the most proactive and most busted starts as far as game one is concerned, and then like you mentioned, just being able to really tool the sideboard to whatever matchup you want, and yeah, just a very good deck, like you said, probably the best deck in the format. I would agree with that.
Well, at least the most played one, you could say.
It's true. Well, see, the actual best deck is Bean Tron, like we were talking about earlier, but we don't want to spoil that for the next week.
Yeah. Well, Beanstalk is being quite impactful in modern. To be fair, I did not expect the card to be as good, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean it's a two mana card advantage engines. It's one of those cards that you really kind of don't kind of need to see the games play out first. It's not apparent on first read like how many cards you're actually drawing, and specifically when you start drawing the second one, it goes really crazy with the elementals.
Yeah. We see Carmen. Is this a 7 for Carmen? I think it is. Yes, right. It's a
I
7.
believe it is, yeah.
Well, that's a. I mean,
It's a pretty good
actually, in console
7.
decks, yeah, they're like most hands are about the same, right? Like specifically this matchup, anything that doesn't have a beanstalk is just like lands and interaction. It's not like there's a perfect cure for anything.
Yeah, and I think knowing the matchup, you're more likely to just keep a hand, like an average hand of lands and spells. You're not looking for one specific card because Gavin is so good at trading one for one. You just want to have that like quantity over quality.
Yeah, I mean, but if you want the quality, it will be beanstalk, I will say. But even that card is probably not great. Gavin is in the tank, though. No, Cameron is in the tank, I think.
Yeah, I'm not.
Gavin is in the tank.
It's like Gavin's in the tank.
Yeah, I
If you're
mean,
If
it's
you're Gavin, would you
close.
keep this?
Honestly, I think yeah. Considering the matchup, it's like it's a very attrition-based matchup, and I have like a lot of good outs. Like obviously, lands are great, but also like not that after all makes trigger the grief start, have blood moon, and but it's just like good cards. I I think there's a matchup where if you miss one land drop and still draw the second land to two, that's okay. I'm not sure. Like I will need to play the matchup a little bit more to see. Like I will need the matchup to be actually quite bad to mulligan this. Like if I'm never winning the long game anyway, I will mulligan. Into actual
Yeah.
like a more proactive hand. But I think this hand is just like very good if you draw land. And there's a non-zero chance Ragavan gets there because obviously we know Carmen has an answer, but not every single hand Carmen keeps has an answer to Ragavan, and so I think it's a fine keep.
Well,
Also, you can go Ragavan Grief, right?
so does Carmen actually have an answer to this Ragavan? I don't know that she can fetch a land that allows her to cast the Binding this turn because she doesn't have. You would need the Jund Triumph, right? Which you can't get.
Yeah, actually, yeah, she doesn't have answer for this turn, but she has another turn. Like you need to draw a
Yeah.
land for Ragavan for this game to actually like function. I think we'll have seen Gavin playing the Grief here to try to open the gates for Ragavan.
A Zegoth Triumph.
Yeah.
So we can go. I would imagine you probably want to preordain first to see if we can find a prismatic ending. And then
Absolutely.
it's kind of awkward though because you want to play the Zagoth Triumph, but like in the situation where preordain finds prismatic ending plus another good card, you have to shuffle the other one away. But you're probably okay with that if you find ending.
Yeah, I mean, if you find ending, I think you're happy. You're preventing your opponent from developing mana, and if you don't find ending, you're gonna play Triumph anyway. You can also find Solitude, which you will play in the situation. So I will definitely lead with Preordain first.
Looks like Carmen agrees,
We don't see
and
the
definitely
cards,
looking
right?
for that prismatic ending.
Well,
Yeah, looks like we found it. There you go.
that is a prismatic ending. Yep.
And after this prismatic ending, Gavin's hand does not look very good unless we, obviously if you find the second land, it's all, we're good to go
It's
here.
land,
But
or he's just losing the game, right? Oh,
there it
that's a
is.
land.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a game.
So now the question is, for if you're Gavin here, do you play the Voidwalker or do you hold up Bowmaster? Now, Carbon's already played 2 preordains, so my instinct is to probably play the Voidwalker, but
Yeah, I think Volker also deals more damage. It's the card is worth more here. Carmen still might have some counter spells anyway, and it's just like the most powerful card even sneaking first. Like I don't think you're gonna win the game attacking for 2 with the orcs, all the way. And obviously this is bad against the fair, but that's it. I would actually like to play the grief here. Like I understand holding the card for not that after all, but Carmen's hand is getting small, and the smaller it gets, the better grief gets because you can just get the only answer and then just run away with the game.
and the really nice thing from Gavin's side, if you do deploy the grief, Carmen doesn't know that you don't have the not dead after all, and with the subtlety in hand, she might have just fired it off, assuming that there was a not dead after all.
Well, that is like the not after all card, Dying
Yep.
Evil. That's a very
Basically
good
the same
one.
thing.
Yeah, very good one here. I mean, this game's looking good for gaming now.
So now, if you're Gavin, you probably attack first to bait the binding, which I imagine Carmen might just take this hit because you want to hold up binding in case
Yeah,
there
I
is
think so.
that grief
Yeah,
effect.
because you're
And
protected from
now,
grief, right? So
right, and now Carmen's in a spot where does she subtlety the grief, or do you let the trigger resolve with the intention of binding it?
I think you can let it resolve because there's nothing can happen. Like if gaming wants to go for the Undying Evil, he's going to run into a binding, so there's no issue. Like just let it resolve, take a 2-for-1 in your favor, and move on with your life. Like it's fine. And then end of turn, you just bind in the Walker.
We're
Cool.
gonna binding in response. Interesting.
Okay.
So I guess Carmen was worried about getting the card taken off grief in exile with the Voidwalker.
Yeah. Maybe now she wants to subtlety. I would say that's a good reason
Ah,
because
okay.
now she gets to like also sometimes time walk. In this case, time walk even. So that if you're gonna salty, it's better to do this way, so the salty doesn't go to the exile with the counter. So for
Right.
future with walkers or even this walker, she decides to bounce the binding. Well, that's very good for Carmen because now gaming has no legal play.
Right, and
Very
Gavin
good.
definitely can't top this grief because you need to draw land 3 for the Fable of the Blood Moon. So yeah, Carmen definitely has the initiative here. Can go ahead and untap and slam that Teferi, and the Teferi also shuts off that Undying Evil in Gavin's hand. So that's a very good sequence here for Carmen.
I think we're gonna see Teferi Plus. Teferi Plus also gives Carmen insurance against Blood Moon as well. I think in these things work pretty well for Carmen here. That is definitely like if you know Gavin doesn't have 2 drops, that's probably better. And if this sequence is worse against like specifically only Grief plus Evil, but it's actually very good if you care about Teferi. I think her game plan here is just focus on Teferi because Teferi does so much in this kind of games. And you want to see
Yeah,
Teferi, yeah, it's very good against Fable also, right? Like you can just bounce the Fable token or whatever. So
yeah, and it's so hard for Gavin to kill the Teferi because if you up Teferi to 5, you can't even get into a situation where you go Fury, evoke trigger on the stack, deal 4 because the Teferi's still at 1. So you even if that's the case, you still can't Undying Evil the Fury.
yeah, Teferi is just very hard to deal for the Rakdos deck. And well, that's a land for Gavin, which is best like what we want to draw. But the game is fairly open. Like Carmen, if Carmen draws a land or Teferi or the draw step, lands the ring, Gavin has an uphill battle here.
Yeah, exactly. Once that ring hits the battlefield, it's definitely going to be a struggle here for Gavin. I'm curious if we play the Fable or the Blood Moon. My guess is probably Fable because since the Teferi's in play, the Blood Moon doesn't do a ton anyways, and you kind of want to just loot it away at this point.
Yeah, you might just want to lead the Blood Moon, like depending how they goes. Like Carmen has a planes, Teferi the
It's a
battlefield.
land. It's
Well, it's a
technically
tap
a land.
land though.
Yeah,
It's technical sorcery though, but yeah. Well, single sorcery, that's 2 sorceries.
2 more
Um,
lands.
yeah. So something Carmen could do here is just like get like a dual land to like make maybe Gavin not lose the Lemon away,
I
and
like
just
that.
with the second one you fetch the island. Like
Yeah,
you fetch
you
the
get the
dual,
dual land to hook them in, and then
you get the
you're like,
dual
oh
one
well, I got the island the
first.
whole time. Yeah,
Yeah, you get the dual one first, and then you get the island second because you're gonna get them both anyway, right? You're gonna get the island and the dual land. So I think that's maybe a little bit better. Not like it's not really like to make a huge impact, but
I guess in theory, maybe Carmen's thinking that if she, like, say she doesn't draw a land for turn, she casts Ring, activates Ring, draws a land, she may just want to hard cast the Lorien at this point.
um,
See that?
maybe. I mean, I guess he's gonna. Yeah, I mean that's a reason you could hold the Lauren. I feel like you only lose this game with a ring if you draw like only lands, right? So maybe
Sure.
that's true, but you also have the binding plus the companion because companion also might matter this game because it blocks the fable. Yeah, maybe that's actually fine.
Also interesting that Carmen decided not to binding the
Yeah, I
Fable.
was thinking this
Any
now.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe binding the fable. I mean, are you gonna binding anything better than this? I guess you already.
I guess maybe you're still worried about the Blood Moon since you downtick to Fairy, but if you have 2 Allens and a Plains, how much do you really care about Blood Moon?
I don't
Probably not
think
that
I
much.
don't think Carmen's deck cares much about Blood Moon once he has Plains Island and the One Ring.
Yeah.
I think that's a situation where she cares, right? That's a tap
So
land, so no shoulder it.
Gavin did loot away the Blood Moon. So my guess is probably just gonna play a second Fable. Yeah, and then next turn you can go for the Shield Rid. Or Fury, maybe depending if you draw an untap land.
This one might deserve the binding, right? Earn the binding in that way. Like,
Maybe.
yeah, we'll see.
Especially now that you've seen that Gavin's discarded the Blood Moon. It's like,
Yeah,
what are you saving it for at this point?
yeah, exactly. I mean, speaking specifically shoulder it, maybe with. I mean, truth is the token also. Yeah, token doesn't do much. You have to bind the fable because the fable is actually fable plus fable. Like two reflection is enough to win the game,
Yep.
and presumably you get the answers to shoulder it. But I could see just holding this so you can play the ring and try to get like to draw the solitudes or supreme verdicts, whatever, and just say the binding just in case you need to go hard with the ring and just draw like 3 cards or 4 cards. Say some life total, but that's the only exception.
Yeah, because even if the Fable becomes a problem at some point, you can just binding it, 2 turns down the road. We're going for the token. Very interesting.
Well,
Oh,
she goes for token so she can bounce with the fairy
that's the
and play it
binding. Yeah.
again.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the issue with this plan is it's not great against Bowmasters or Fury. We know he doesn't have Bowmasters, but it's a little bit risky in that way, in that regard. Oh, Omnath, that's a very
That's a
good
good
one.
draw.
That is a good draw. Omnath is just a very good card, right? Like it is. I know. Whenever I play with the card, I'm like, oh, this is good. Like
So
zero mana feels like zero mana draw a card, pull a creature, go live.
so good. I'm wondering if Gavin here just doesn't even discard to the Fable because you kind of want land 5 to go. I assume you want to play Fury this turn. Be
Yeah,
my
I would like
guess.
to go on Fury here. I mean, because you cannot land Shieldred, right? Because Shieldred gets bounced by Teferi and you just lose the game there to the ring.
Right.
I mean, we're
Yes.
sort of, if we're gaming, we're kind of desperate situation, but I still think Fury is the best we can do.
So he does discard the land. Unfortunately, for Gavin doesn't find a land to finds an Undying Evil. That's not doing a lot here. So
Yeah.
yeah, now we're just gonna, I assume, cast the Shieldred, and like you mentioned, Teferi probably just bounces Shieldred, Omnath, fetch land. It's feeling like it's close to slipping away, but not quite.
Well, even better, you can bounce the binding with the we said before,
Oh
right?
yeah.
We bounce the
Yep.
bounding with Teferi, we binding the Shieldred, draw a bunch of cards with Ring, play Omnath. I will say this is certainly this is very close to be slipping away, as you said. I mean,
Yeah, it's probably over.
well, it looks like it's very over. Now Carmen can use Verdict and Binding and it's over.
Yeah.
Actually,
See.
yeah.
Yeah. Do we? Yeah, I guess we can fetch a white source. We can go binding or verdict, and then I guess you don't even need to cast the other binding. You can probably just let the other fable go off,
Yeah,
or
actually,
you could
you can
also.
use a Verdict, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking you could even go binding this turn and then verdict after the second fable flips.
Yeah, that's something that actually makes sense. I mean, there's probably not too many ways to lose this game,
Yeah.
unless like Carmen life total is not super high. So there's a world where like Archivio Masters can actually steal a game here. So I would like to draw with the ring as soon as possible, because the way you lose is you activate the ring, and Gavin draws the Bowmaster, a surprise Bowmaster, and somehow like he can copy it or like get it back with Unding and whatever. So I think it's maybe good for Carmen to draw as soon as possible. All right, that's a grief.
Grief here is actually pretty good because it
It
can
is
take the Omnath.
it is pretty good. Yeah, that's true. Like Omnath is was a like late games engine here for Carmen. So I will say we have a little bit of a game yet. I mean, still like it's not over.
Right, for sure. Yeah, we can a situation can come up where Carmen can just draw a whole bunch of lands in a row with the ring, and the grief plus reflection could be enough to take it down. I guess there is still the binding that can clear the reflection, but if Carmen say activates the ring, you take 2, go to 6, you kill the reflection, the grief puts you to 3. If you brick that turn, then it can get a little dicey here.
She could die to the ring actually.
Yeah.
Like Ring is probably the best win condition Garvin has right now. Ring and the Orchestra Masters he could be drawing. Like Carmen has to draw, right? Like he has to draw, and if he draws like 1 or 2 lands, he has to draw again, and that's like she has to
Yeah,
call
and
it
then it's really
very.
bad.
Yeah, I mean I don't know exactly how many life games she has, but like it's like definitely one Omnath and 2 more Teferis and more rings, but no, it's not
Yeah,
obvious
look.
that there's one of these cards in the top 7 cards or so.
Right. Yeah. Looking at Carmen's deck list, yeah, there's only one Omnath, 4 Solitude, the 4 Rings, and the 3 Teferis. So past that, I guess we could Prismatic Ending our own ring if it comes to it. You don't really want to do that though.
Yeah, I mean that's a resource. I mean, he's definitely going to be aware of these things, but also you have to win the game. Your opponent is going to be drawing 1 card per turn, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of good cards in your opponent's deck. Fables suddenly actually granted this game very well, I will say.
Yeah, it's very impressive to see the double Fable just keeping up with the constant. I guess we've only had the ring in play for a turn or two, but it's still kind of surprising to see how well Fable has been able to keep up pace with all of the card draw and threats that Carmen has presented.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, important draw steps for Carmen here. I think we're going to see binding before the ring. Maybe she's not going to use the ring.
Yeah, I guess if we're doing this first, probably not. Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
she's
like we're
not
just gonna
doing
leave it in play.
what's the plan then?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of awkward because your hand is bricked. You're gonna have to tap this eventually, and those, for better lack of a better term, those are basically bricks at this point.
Yep. I mean, they're breaks. Just to go for
Oh, we're gonna go for Kahira. Okay,
Yeah, as for Kahira and played, but it's not very good.
and then I guess you still have
Gavin
the
gets
scolding up. But if Gavin finds a land,
the thing is, unless Carmen draws like a bunch of solitudes, the life total is pretty low.
right at 6 life with the ring on 2, you're
This is
you're
lethal,
basically under
right?
the gun.
I'm not lethal because of scalding, but yeah. No, no, scalding is 3 or less, right?
Scolding is 2 or less, I believe. Power tough just 2 or less. I
Two or
think
less,
that's the
then
card.
then this is lethal.
So you go Fury. Oh, because you can copy, right? Fury, kill
Yeah,
that,
yeah. Fury, kill
and
that, copy,
then yep.
attack.
Wow, crazy! I did not think that I did not think that Gavin was gonna win that game. That was a wild
Yeah,
one.
no, definitely. I mean, it was a lot of lands then after the ring.